What's up YouTube? I'm Trent Wel-Don. Welcome back to the channel Wel-Don Aquatics. We're going to start tonight's video with a quick unboxing and explain exactly what I plan on using this dosing pump for. Alright guys, if you've been following my channel, you know we recently started the new saltwater tank, the Reef tank, the Wel-Don 65. And one of the projects I wanted to do on that tank was another series of automatic water changes. As we know we have the auto water change system for all the freshwater tanks. Wanted to implement the same thing for the saltwater tank. Now this one's definitely going to be a different type of auto water changes, basically in how it's set up to run, as we need to pre-mix that salt water before it goes in. And I plan on really delving into the full water system tonight for that Reef tank and going from there. So that's what we're actually going to be using this Jebao dosing pump for. So this is the Jebao DP2, which basically means it has two dosing heads. Now this is not going to be for dosing additives, but really doing an auto water change. And I got this idea from watching Bulk Reef Supply's channel. With them doing the ULM, the ultra low maintenance tanks that they set up. And what's quite fascinating is they used one of the Neptune dosing pumps to run auto water changes on one of the tanks. So I really thought, what did the Jebao do? The exact same thing, but for a fraction of the cost. I think I picked this up for about like 50 bucks off of Amazon. I'll leave a link down in the description below, as well as a link in the description below to Bulk Reef Supply's video based on their product and the Neptune dosing, how they set it up, so you can watch that and kind of compare, see which one you want to go for. But I really think that the Jebao dosing pump will run as well as I need it to for the application I'm putting it into. And as far as I know, I think you can run this to like 24. I'll have to look at the numbers. I know you can set this program it to for so many times throughout the day to come on at certain increments, and in small increments. So you're gonna be dosing like maybe a milliliter kind of a thing. So it'll take some fine tuning, but once this is all set up and running, really a timer will kick on this pump, do my water change, and I won't have to think twice about it. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so straight out of the box, this is what we're working with. This is not a large pump, so it's not going to take up a lot of space. It's one reason why I was okay with this one. I will say the Neptune dosing pumps looks, so much cleaner. It's a fantastic pump, but I can't afford it. I don't really want to pay that price, so I found something much cheaper. I think it's going to do the exact same thing for us. So you can see here we have the programs up front, the two pump heads. And what's nice is that Jebao actually included an extra pump head. So that's going to be really efficient to use. I don't see a way to necessarily mount this up on like a wall or a door. That is one thing the Neptune dosing is capable of doing. So I'm going to have to figure out a place to really kind of rest this to allow it to pump properly. But I'm really interested in getting this up and running. So I'm going to go ahead and work on it, get it set up, and then we'll come back and continue the video showing you the process I did to run this and get an auto water change going for the Reef tank. So with the Jebao pump, what we're going to need to do first is actually get it calibrated. So I was reading the instructions, it definitely says we need to get it calibrated. And I was looking at it, I actually found a YouTube video that I can link down in the description below, I believe by Fish of Hex. Did a really good job explaining this, how to calibrate it. So I wanted to show you really quick how to calibrate it as well. So I have it set up to where, on the pump head, you're going to have the first line is going to be your intake, the second line is going to be your output, and we are going to be measuring out 100 milliliters of water. So I am using my reservoirs. This is simple glass. I'm using some simple airline tubing, nothing fancy, and a measuring cup that can measure out in the milliliters. So it is kind of, we're gonna make this work as I have to talk and do this. All right, so when you first plug this in, you're gonna need to push really any button to get your screen, there we go, your screen to light up, and we'll set the date and time later. But for right now, we need to run this pump in manual mode. So push the right or left button, and it's going to take you into the manual mode, and we're going to select which pump we're going to calibrate. I've already done the first pump, so we're going to do the second pump for this video. So we're going to go over to the second one, we're going to push our enter button. Now what I've found is you actually have to hold that enter button the entire time that you are running this in a manual mode. So let's see if I can rig this to make this work. So what this is going to do is over here in the reservoir, and it's actually got to purge all the air out of the line first. But we're going to hold this down until we get 100 milliliters measured out. All right, guys, so in the middle of getting that head to prime and calibrating that head, I actually, the pumping head quit working. And I did a quick YouTube search, and apparently there's a lot of there's some people in the world that are smarter than I am. You know, go figure. My wife's probably laughing at me right now. She's filming it for me. But I actually found out that this pump head was assembled backwards. I don't know. As far as I can tell, it's still going to be a decent pump, but I want to show you the fix I found. So inside your head, when you take it off, and I had to use a butter knife to get this dang thing off, you're going to, when the way I opened it up was that this spacer was facing the wrong way in this pump, and it wasn't allowing the rollers to actually roll along the tubing, which is actually going to be the process of pulling the liquid through the tube. So the spacer and the rollers were actually put in backwards of this pump. So I'll give you a quick idea. You're gonna need to put your rollers in, no hole. I don't know if you can see, there's this tiny little hole. Those holes need to go facing up towards you. And the tricky part is you're gonna have to get all three of these in here, and then the spacer will go in on the back side, not the front side of the pump. So I'm gonna get this reconnected and then we'll get back to calibrating the pump. All right, guys, so now we got that pump head fixed. Everything is functioning properly again. So back to the main screen. We're gonna go back into showing you how to calibrate a pump head. Push your left arrow, it's gonna take you to the manual pump. We're gonna do pump head 2. And now here's where you're gonna have to hold the enter button, and you're gonna have to hold it until you pump out 100 milliliters of water into your reservoir. So there we go. All right, so now that we have manually pumped out 100 milliliters of fluid through the pump, we now need to go in and actually calibrate it. So now we're gonna push our up arrow, and that's gonna take you to a screen that says correct pumps. We're gonna go over to the second pump because that was the one we were calibrating. Enter into that. Now you're gonna see here, the number here displayed doesn't really mean anything. It's not like seconds of time. It's just the reading to show you that we need to properly calibrate this. So your manual pumping gave you a number of 176. So what we need to do now is pump another 100 milliliters out of this, but it's actually going to go on an automatic basis. So to get it started, you will push the up arrow, and as you can see, that number is moving. So now we are going to run this again until it pulls out 100 milliliters of fluid, and from that point on, your pump will be calibrated. So now that we have the pumps calibrated, I want to show you how to go in and actually set up the programming of the pump. So push your enter key there, and it's going to give you to set the date and time and set program. So we're going to go down to set program, and now we'll do pump 1. Now when it says time per day, so 1 through 24, so you can have this go on. This will determine how many times this pump will kick on during the day. So I'm going to set it for 1 time per day. Now the 0 to 30 is, do you want this to run every day, every other day, once a week, that kind of a nature. So with it being at 0, 0, this pump will run every single day for 1 time a day. And now you're going to decide how many actual milliliters of fluid you're going to pull out of this. And if you continue to go up, this first number only goes to 9. So if you want to get to 10, you'll have to zero that out, move left, and put 1. And there's your 10. So I'm going to be using this to actually run auto water changes. So I think I'm going to move this over potentially, and we are going to start with maybe 1,000 milliliters. And I may run this every other day, but just for the purpose of this video, just kind of showing you how to program this and that nature. But that's how you will set up the actual program, and then for the dosing time, you can set what time you want the pump to kick on. Now this is all in 24 hours, so it's military time. So if let's say we want to get, to, I don't know, so midnight. So 0000 is midnight. Let's say you want to run this at, so here's the thing, let's try this. So let's say you want this pump to come on at 11 o'clock at night. So that's 2,300 hours, would be 11 p.m. This pump will kick on and dose, what did I put it as? 1,000 milliliters. So what I plan on having this do is that the first pump head is going to draw water out of the tank and down to the waistline, and the second pump head is actually going to pump in new fresh salt water. So let's go get this pump connected up and I will show you from there. So if you remember one of my previous videos, I did this whole thing of like, here, come with me. Let me show you how I set up this auto water change system for all my freshwater tanks. Well, let's go back this way for just a moment here, because I gotta tell you guys something else I just completed tonight. The Reef tank, the Wel-Don 65, it's now on its own automatic water change system. So now come with me and let me explain what I'm talking about. So this one was actually pretty fun. Now this has been the whole process of the video. We did the unboxing of that Jebao pump. So I got the Jebao pump set up back here, but I want to give you a full rundown now of my auto water change system. So here is the lifeblood of the saltwater tank. So here's what's happening right now. So we got the Jebao pump programmed, and I just built it up with some cinder blocks to give myself a stand for it to rest on. I wanted it a little higher than the initial reservoir. So this whole brute trash can is, or Rubbermaid trash can is what it is it's about 30 gallons, and this is all pre-mixed salt water. So I have it tapped in from my RO line, and I put a ball valve on here so I can also reach to my auto top off, as well as this, and a float switch. Now the float switch is just an extra precaution as I'm filling this up with RO water when I need to after I deplete it, that I won't overflow it, that the float switch will actually kill the water. Super, super simple to install. Just need a 1/2-inch drill bit, drilled right through it, put it connected in, you're ready to go. But I also have a power head in the bottom of that, just to help mix the salt up when that time comes. But like I said, so we have the Jebao pump, and I have, let's see if I can pull it up here. I don't know if you can see it on camera. I have a rigid piece of what they call airline tubing, or the acrylic piece. It's just an acrylic tube that fits onto some silicone airline. And I put that on here primarily because I want the reservoir to be able to draw from the bottom and not the top. And then it comes up in here to the pump heads. Now what I did here is a piece of silicone airline, Tucker's down here with me. A piece of silicone airline will connect to the outlet of the pump head. Now from there, I wanted to use RO tubing because it's rigid and I had enough of it and I had it on hand, and also I've had zero issue with this running it through my wall around my tanks to provide for this. But to get the silicone airline tubing to connect the RO tubing, I used what we call a micro ball valve. Very simple, and I was able to get these to connect together, no issue. So this is 1/4-inch RO tubing and 1/4-inch airline connected to a micro ball valve. You can find these ball valves on Amazon, and now that is my connection there. So once a day, the pump will kick on and draw water from the reservoir and run it out to the Reef tank. And then once a day, the pump will kick on and draw water from the Reef tank and bring it over here to my wastewater system. And that's it, guys. Like, I'm officially on auto water changes everything now. The only thing I'll have to do is maybe a couple months, maybe once a month. I'll have to really see how long this reservoir lasts of 30 gallons. Because right now I have it set to pull about 1,000 milliliters out a day. And I'm gonna fine tune and adjust as we get going. And one reason why I'm not doing a massive water change, let's actually walk back out to the Reef tank here and talk. One reason why I'm not doing a massive water change is the Reef tank has stabilized around what's going on right now. So, confession. The entire time I've had my Reef tank set up, and the lights are off right now. We'll talk more on this light later. I have not done a water change, not one water change. I've only topped off. So that's my bad. I may have been a little bit of a lazy fish keeper here, but it has allowed the tank to stabilize around really, it's allowed the tank to stabilize around the use of the refugium, the live rock, and just kind of stabilize all together. Now I am starting to get some algae buildup in that nature. The lights are on a good cycle right now, so I am gonna kind of go through that ugly phase for a while. But with the auto water change system now, it's really gonna help control the algae and bring that up. So I made sure that the salinity of the reservoir is the same salinity as in the tank, so I'm not gonna have any fluctuations there. But let me show you what I did here. Come around here with me. So this tube coming in runs down into the tank here. It's kind of hard to see because a lot of the lights are off. It's late at night, but this tube here that is the tube that's going to draw water out of the tank. And then if we come down here, I have a tube running into the sump, and that tube is going to be bringing in the fresh salt water. So it's a really simple system. One pump head will draw water out of the tank, one pump head will bring water to the tank, and it's all automated. The only thing I'll have to do is, like I say, refill that reservoir maybe once a month, maybe even longer, depending on how this really goes. But I love it that it's like a push of a button, water change, done, complete, no worries. I absolutely am in love with this project, and it was super simple. So like I say, I got this idea from Reef Supply. I'm going to leave a link down in the description below on how they used it on an ultra low maintenance tank they talked about. And I was able to now apply it to my tank using a much cheaper dosing pump, but it's the same result, same kind of effect going on. Now I'm also using, I'm sure some questions are going to come up what salt I'm using. I'm using the Instant Ocean, what's the purple box? I don't know what it's called. This is the Instant Ocean Mix. I have the box right here. Here, I'll show you. So I'm using the Instant Ocean purple box. I know there's like a blue box, you call it like the Reef crystals, I think it is. Now, one reason why I went with Instant Ocean and nothing crazy was I talked to one of my local fish stores that I'm going to be going to purchase some fish from, some coral from, the salt from. And he recommended that box to me. You know, we talked about what kind of tank I want to keep, what kind of corals I'm going to be keeping. And I told him I want a salt that I can keep whatever coral I want to in the tank. He goes, here, Instant Ocean purple box, it'll do you great. Another reason I chose Instant Ocean is I've previously ordered salt from an online vendor. It was not the vendor's fault, but the bucket got broken in shipping. It was very frustrating. So I needed a salt that I could source locally. So that's the salt I'm using, and it mixes really, really well. With the pump head, the power head in the reservoir bucket, the power head in the reservoir, that big trash can, it mixed the salt up with no issue. I had no trouble mixing it, so I was very pleased. Didn't leave a lot of residue, mixed up very cleanly, and so far I've had great success with it in my Reef tank. So that's the salt I'm using, but more importantly, that is the auto water change system I got rolling on the Reef tank now. So I'm very excited about this. It's been so much fun working all these projects and finding ways how to do these and really hopefully inspiring others to do this. So right now, every tank that I own is on an auto water change system, and I am loving it. It may make me somewhat of a lazy fish keeper in some people's eyes, but this also allows me to do so much more because I have time. Now I really take time to come down and enjoy the fish. And I know you can argue of like, well, you enjoy your fish doing a water change. You're absolutely correct. But this is just, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek, however you want to say it. I am in love with this project. So thank you everybody for joining me on this one. I hope this helped. I hope this inspired you, gave you some ideas of potentially how you could also set this up on a freshwater tank or your own tanks. Just try something new. That's what I really want to try and inspire people to do, is try something new. Enough of my rambling. I'm going to call it a night. Thank you for joining me, tuning in. If you want to see more of the progression of the Wel-Don 65, the Reef tank down here in the alcove, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one.